Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Agent Carter episode 7 video. We only have one episode left, and then the next week after that, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back, so I'll try to explain what the schedule is. There hasn't been any confirmation about Season 2, but if they say something before the finale airs, I'll be sure to include it in that video next week. So just careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet, starting with top 5 moments. Number 5, Dr. Faustus flashback. The character's name is Dr. Ivchenko, but he was holding that Dr. Faustus book, so everyone thinks he might be Dr. Faustus from the Marvel Comics. The showrunners are kind of sidestepping that, like they're avoiding directly calling him Dr. Faustus, but you can think of him that way. He has the same type of powers that Dr. Faustus has. In the comics, he's a Hydra character connected to the Red Skull, but because the antagonists are Russian, because Leviathan's Russian on the TV show, I think they're just trying to separate this character from the Marvel Comics. It seems like based on this flashback, he's a good person, he's a psychiatrist trying to help soldiers with PTSD or shell shock. The look on his face right here does not look like he's trying to do something nice. This is like the look a villain has on their face. Hopefully they'll explain how he got tied up with Leviathan, because when we had the Black Widow flashback, when we had Dottie's flashback, he was just sitting in that chair. Moving on to number 4, Agent Carter gets interrogated. This is like the fish shake WTF from the episode, just because we as the audience know she's totally innocent and the SSR is way behind in the story, so we have to wait for them to catch up with the narrative. And nothing is more frustrating than watching your protagonist waste time treating one of their teammates like an asshole. Peggy even said it, "You are wasting precious time." The team comes around, they start believing her, but if you have made a connection with the Agent Sousa character and Agent Thompson and these other characters, you feel this crushing remorse of being a douchebag to Peggy. It's kind of hard to get excited about an episode or a story or a scene when you feel awful about yourself. I feel like that's one of the fundamental issues of the show, is that at times it can make you feel like an asshole. Imagine what would happen if the Avengers were just jerks to each other all the time. It would be such an unlikable franchise. That's why they have to have that moment where they come together in the episode. Like, you have to have that win, that team-based win. And I feel like because Agent Carter's only 8 episodes, it takes longer to get there. They have less time to spend on that. So you can still walk away after this episode feeling kind of terrible about yourself. You guys can let me know if you agree, but do you feel like these characters fighting with Peggy makes you feel worse about yourself? I feel like it's really hard to get excited about scenes like this, which is why it was like a big WTF for me. Moving on to number 3, Peggy tells the truth. Jarvis's confession was a nice twist. He's like the pressure release valve in the episode, but he serves this really important function as Peggy's sidekick. It's like he needs to embody the spirit of adventure, but be weak enough to make Peggy seem like the real hero. Like when they're together, you're never confused about who the sidekick is. He's like the Samwell Tarly to Peggy's Jon Snow. And I just love how the show plays around Howard Stark's absence. The real reason I think Dominique Cooper isn't around every week is mostly because of availability issues and cost. And I kind of think the people are more familiar with his character, so you'd start to unconsciously think of it as the Howard Stark show, and Peggy would turn into a supporting character, regardless of the show being called Agent Carter. Sometimes that can happen when you have characters that are so popular they just overpower the narrative. It'd be like putting one of the Avengers on the Daredevil show every week. What are you going to get more excited about, Daredevil parkour or Iron Man's new armor? That being said, it's a really good problem to have when you have characters that are too popular to be in a story. I mean, it's like an embarrassment of riches. Speaking of which, now that the SSR knows all about Captain America's blood, don't you just wonder what's going to happen to it? I mean, right now it seems safe, but we're in the early stages of Hydra's infiltration. It just seems funny that they have all that Stark tech just lying around their lab, like it's no big deal. Moving on to number 2, Agent Dooley takes one for the team. Thanks to that whole hypnosis sequence, we finally get to see his family. It's always weird when you hear about characters all the time, but you never see them on screen. Most of the time that's actually used as a comedy device. Like, oh, I can't believe my wife, she won't get off my case. And you just never see the wife. When they were walking through the lab and he picked that vest up for the first time, I was actually expecting the camera to reveal it as some sort of prototype Iron Man armor. I guess you could think of it that way. You could think of it as like arc reactor prototype. They never fully explain what that power source is, but it does sound like the arc reactor as Tony Stark described it in the first Iron Man film. He just says that it was an energy source that his father could never get to work properly, and Jarvis went on and on about how unstable all their tests were. Agent Dooley's sacrifice did go a long way towards humanizing his character, making him a little bit more likable. He's been kind of a hard sell, but I guess you could understand where his logic is flowing from. I mean, he's the boss. He has to go with the facts that are presented to him. It didn't seem like the way he treated Peggy had anything to do with her being a woman, at least after the first couple of episodes. I wasn't super connected to the character, so the death probably wasn't quite as meaningful for me as, say, like one of the other characters like Agent Sousa if he had died. But I did like the way they eulogized him with that dream sequence. I mean, that was really nice. That was a fitting way to go out. At heart, he's just a family man. And my number one moment, Dottie and Dr. Avchenko test Stark's nerve gas. So they never gave it a real name, just Item 17, but it works just like the weapon in the Kingsman movie. I know that's kind of meta because you could think of Nick Fury as being the villain in that movie because it's Sam Jackson. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but there is a scene that's very similar to this in the movie. The place where they filmed the episode, the Agent Carter episode, was actually the Los Angeles Theater that was built in 1931. They took a whole bunch of pictures from the inside. It's really cool. It kind of reminds me of an episode earlier this season on Gotham that they shot inside of a theater, but that shoots in New York and Agent Carter shoots in Los Angeles, so it's two different places. There's this really funny thing going on, like if you ever saw Inglourious Bastards, it's like that Nation's Pride screening where the theater burns down. The idea of movies inside movies. They presented it in a fairly straightforward way. I don't think that reel that they were watching was intended to be anything crazy or specific. So let me know, what was your favorite moment from the episode? And here's my big question for you. They said Leviathan is coming. The last episode is called Valediction, which basically means farewell. So do you think that this is going to be some sort of big general attack, or do you think that a big villain is going to step forward? I know they presented this Dr. Faustus character as the main villain, but it seemed like he got drummed into service with Leviathan too, so I'm wondering if there's someone above him. And if they're doing their job and the narrative is really tightly constructed, then we probably met that villain already. Think of it in terms of The Flash. The Flash is like a good benchmark for really well-constructed narratives. You meet all the main characters, all the ones that are really important in the first episode, so you open and you close the narrative with the same group of people. I already mentioned most of the Easter eggs that I saw, but if you guys saw any others, just write them below in the comments. I'd say my only thumbs down in the episode has been the villain character development. I mean, we know Leviathan is the villain, but we really don't know more than they're just some sort of vague Russian organization. We don't know if it's a person, and we have no idea what their real motives are. I mean, yes, they want Stark Tech, and yes, they probably want to take over the world, but that feels like it's too vague to be interesting. World domination is such an old plot device that it's hard to take seriously. So fingers crossed that the twist in the finale makes the conflict feel a lot more personal to Peggy, Jarvis, Howard Stark. It's just like on the list of possible twists that you can give an audience, the villain turning out to be a friend of yours is usually a little more rewarding than like a Hail Mary Deus Ex Machina situation where a villain you've never seen before steps in and says, "It was all me, I did it all." Like I said though, no confirmation on season 2. Hopefully they'll make an announcement before the finale next week. That's called Valediction. That's the title of the finale. Be sure to subscribe to get my video for that. The next week after that, S.H.I.E.L.D. comes back, so we'll be back to weekly S.H.I.E.L.D. videos pretty soon. Lots of Inhumans and Secret Warriors comic book stuff to talk about. In case you guys are behind too, there's a new episode of Arrow tonight. Deathstroke is coming back, so be sure to watch it. I'll post my video after the episode airs. While you guys wait for all that stuff to drop, you can click here to catch up on last night's Bananas episode of The Flash. Haha. And you can click here for last week's Agent Carter. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody, let's high five. I'll see you tonight.